Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Alpha Strike. Today we are presenting Professor ErX's Academy for Higher Learning featuring ID cards. My name is Mike, and this is Professor ErX. So you're going to show us ID cards today. I'm actually really quite interested to learn about these as I don't have many of them myself, but I've seen them used and they are quite powerful.
Well, gather around me, my Clicksmen, and I will show you how they work. So, first things first, ID cards. What are they? Well, they are these beautiful little monsters, okay?
And he has just about all of them.
Just about all of them, because I love these things.
And he never uses them. No, he uses them all the time. It's crazy annoying.
My local Clicks crowd hates them because of me. Alright, so, a little bit about ID cards. First off, what are they? So, ID cards are kind of their own element. They are exactly that. They are an ID card. Nothing else.
What, they're not a resource or an equipment or an item?
Nope. They're just strictly ID cards. They are classified as ID cards in the game. They are not tactics either. So in a non-tactics format, you can still use these.
Gross.
Unless the format says otherwise, but WizKids has ruled them as not tactics. So with that fact being said, there are a lot of these cards as I've shown you, and they are extremely powerful and can be useful in a lot of different ways, depending on what your team needs to get better. So usually when you build a team with these things, you gotta think, well, what does my team need? And you look at the ID cards of what you have and the characters you have available to call in with them to see what can help you. Let's explain how they work. That's the next step. So without reading an actual ID card word for word, I'm going to kind of summarize. First thing is setup, okay? Whenever you're using these things, the coolest part about these is you can be like optimal with them. You don't have to like pick one figure and stick to it. You can actually go ahead and bring in 3 war machines on your sideline if you have room for them. And then when you go to place your figures on the board, you then pick any one of them to beat that one's ID card holder.
So I can bring 3 war machines and use this card 3 times and call in 3 different war machines.
No, it's 1 per war machine.
Oh, okay.
But they are unique as well, so you can't have more than 1 war machine card ever on your force.
1 war machine card. Okay.
Yes.
So these cards are unique. Now, aren't there some that are not unique?
Yes, there are currently only 2 of them that are not unique, and that's the level 7 Shield ID card and the level 1 Shield ID card. But they are still unique in the fact that you have to have different characters assigned to each one. I mean, you can't have 2 Shield recruits on 2 different level 1 ID cards.
So I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but important note with the sideboard, how many characters can I have in my sideboard going along with these ID cards, since you're saying I can bring 3 different war machines and pick the one that I want to run for that game? So
the rule with ID cards in the setup part is as well, you are only allowed to have as many ID card characters as you have characters on your force. So if you're putting a 300-point team, usually between 3 to 5 characters, you only ever have that many ID cards ready. But you can have up to, 3 characters per 100 points of your build. So if you're 300 points, you have 9 characters on your sideline ready to be one of those ID cards.
I hope everybody else got that because I'm terribly confused.
It's really not that difficult, but we're getting too far. That's for more tactic talk later. I'm just doing the basics of these. So with that as well, we have the Colin Help ability what these give you. So these cost 5 points to bring into your force, and with the Colin Help, what you do is you take one of your figures on the board. We'll use Black Panther as our example. He's 140 points.
Of amazingness.
During the beginning of your turn, and when he has no action tokens, you can, during the beginning of your turn, give him an action token, pick one of your ID cards on the sideline with a character cost of equal to or less than his point value, and call him in adjacent. So for instance, 140 points, let's say I have Shazam on my sideline with the 125-point Captain Thunder from Flash. I'll go ahead and give my opponent 5 points. Here you go. And call in this Shazam. So, and this Shazam now gets his beginning of game effects. It's
Captain Thunder.
It's his first turn on the board, therefore it has been ruled by WizKids that this is the beginning of the game for this new figure. So anything on his card that would say it happens at the beginning of the game, Like, for instance, he gets to call in his tiger Tawny adjacent to him for free. He gets that tiger, and when he leaves at the end of the turn, Tawny stays around. You just got a free cat. Free stuff? That's a thing, right?
That's the thing.
That's a thing. So, something to think about there. All right. Now, aside from just calling in a figure, there's a couple rules it has to abide by, okay? So, let's say, for instance, that he got called in and he could do an action like a normal character. However, when you do this power action right here to bring him in, it did not end the beginning of your turn actions. So
Wait. Power actions are supposed to end the beginning of your turn. It's not a free action. It's power action. I have to sign a token. Why doesn't that end the beginning of my turn?
because these are special objects as such, to say they don't end at the beginning of turn action with power action, which gets ruled that way. I don't understand why, but it being a special action that it is means that when they call in a figure, it's beginning of the game for them and beginning of turn for them, as well as any like poison can go off. They can still sidestep, outwit, perplex, all those free actions before they even do anything is a power action on your turn.
So I call in, and it's still the beginning of my turn, even though I've taken a power action.
Yes. And that power action, even though it doesn't end the beginning of your turn step, it does count against your available actions for the turn.
So many rules just breaking and not making any sense, but that's the way it was ruled.
So, yeah. So the three things you have to keep in mind when this figure's on the board, there's four things actually can never have done to it. One thing is it can never be carried. So if you had a character say, oh, let's replace him with another option, Captain America got called in, okay? We'll say Captain America called in. Captain America, he actually has, I believe, Defend and Transporter. So he could carry. The problem... Yeah, his motorcycle. So even though Black Panther can't physically carry him, which he couldn't anyways, he could carry Black Panther. The only problem with that is if he carries Black Panther, the second he goes to pick up and move, Black Panther's no longer on the board, in a sense, and so it then makes Captain America go away, and you can put Black Panther anywhere where he would have stepped into. So you can move him a whole 2 squares.
You sure about that?
Yes, I'm 100% sure about that.
Because I thought I read a ruling that said that they end up in the square of the character that was carrying them.
It's an adjacent square whether they're carrying him.
Okay.
I am relatively sure. Almost 100% sure if I read that right. So
we'll double check on that and
yeah.
put a little blurb.
Annotation if we mess that up. The second thing that they cannot be given any double power actions. So if a figure has a power that requires a double power action, they cannot take it.
So no calling in Invincible Iron Man War Machine Prime and taking double power action, taking 2 shots at once. Not going to happen. They saw that before it even rolled out the door.
Yes. Good eye, whiz kids. And then they can't be replaced. So let's say you called in the Superman and Batman from the World's Finest set that have the shifting focus trait. You cannot call one of them in and then change them out for the other one. Not allowed with the ID characters.
Interesting.
Yep, just gotta keep that in mind. And then lastly, these characters can't be assigned a resource. So back when this first came out, there was lantern batteries. You could have called it a character and someone could try to put a resource attachment on them to, say, give them extra power. They could never do that. It'd be really cool, but it'd break the reason for bringing this in.
Yeah, bring somebody in, superpower them up, and then let them leave the fight. I like the sound of that, but nope, not happening.
All right. And then last things, they have 3 specific rules they have to follow. They have to stay within 5 squares of the person who called them in at all times. If they ever leave that, they leave the board right away. So let's say, for instance, you called in Captain America to carry in somebody else. Like, say he wants to carry around this broken Ultron drone, who's now on a dial. Well, let's say that. He can carry his Ultron drone. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, boop. He drops the thing right there and he goes away.
What a waste of a taxi. I could have attacked you if I just stopped there and dropped the drone in front of him.
Yep, he could have just done transporter and done 10 attack, 5 range, whatever, and done something else. But, you do what you gotta do. Now, the reason why that's a very important thing to think about too is some figures, when you call them in, they have sidestep. So you can make them like charge or running shot, because some of them have sidestep as well. And they can do their attack and then sidestep away and fade out of their 5 squares and poof away. Because one of the dangers of bringing out an ID character, not only is your opponent scoring the 5 points for the ID card, there's an option that they can actually take to kill your ID card figure and get the full points for that figure.
Yeah, when these ID cards first came out, I ran a game against Eric, and he called in Justice with an ID card. Delicious 60 points that I took the next turn before he disappeared. I believe there was some salt that came about from that particular little instance, but he put him out there, and he was ripe for the picking.
All right, and so the other thing is they cannot, let's see here, what's the other thing? They leave at the beginning of your next turn, and that has been ruled. Even though it says beginning of your next turn, it's before anything else happens at the beginning of your turn. So it's supposed to say at the start of your next turn, it should say. So they can't poison and then leave. They can't perplex and then leave. They just go away.
At the beginning of your next turn, not during the beginning of your next turn. So at the beginning of your next turn, it goes away.
Yeah. So keep first things first. Keep that in mind, guys. There's also, they can be removed by other effects too. If there are figures, I can't think of it off the top of my head, that would say remove a figure from the board, like capture, that would send it back away too. That one comes to mind.
So I capture you and you just disappear.
Poof. Yep. You don't capture my guy, which is very helpful, I guess. All right. And last but not least, they're Inspire. So Inspire is a really cool thing. Basically, when the figure is on the board adjacent to all of your characters, they, not the character you called in, the characters around that character can use the inspiration ability. So, for instance, Captain America's ability, his says, can use energy shield deflection, and when this character hits an opposing character, add an action to your action pool. So that's pretty cool, because now your other figures who are supporting get ESD on defense when you're still around next turn, during your opponent's turn, and if they do hit during your turn, you get more actions, so you can move more figures if you have a whole army of just dudes.
That's a really big shield, Cap. Do you think we can all hide behind it all at once? Well, yes. Yes, you can, citizen.
And the cool thing about this particular one, that 65.1 from Age of Ultron, he has Defend and gives +1 to all adjacent from the characters. So not only is he giving you 17 base, he's giving you ESD and a +1.
+3.
+3s, man.
20 defense for everybody.
20 defense. He's a great little Colin. So that's an option to guys think about. I'm trying to use more cards that more people have, because some of you may have collected them throughout all the time they've been coming out, or just starting now and may not have a lot, but can get a few access to like the Age of Ultron ones that are pretty cheap to come by on the internet, or through friends who have extras sometimes.
So a question about inspiration. There are some of them that say this grants charge. I'm thinking of Hulk, for instance.
Sure.
Well, its inspiration is when I'm in an adjacent square, so I get charged, but then I take off. Do I lose charge, and so they can't move anymore?
No, you gain charge from him when you start the action. You can complete the action with charge.
What about any pluses that I would have had when I started adjacent?
No. Once you leave adjacency, he also has a +1 to attack during a close combat attack. If you leave him, that +1 does not go with you.
Okay.
If you have a way to carry Hulk around, which you can't do, then, you could have, but he can't be carried, as for the ID card rules. So, there is that, basically. So, moving right along, we now have, let's see. So, the fact these cards cost 5 points, okay? That seems like a really cheap cost, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, I can squeeze 5 points in just about any build.
And, not that you need to, but it's there. You should never really build your forces around these unless you think your team needs them. If you can fill a 300-point team or more with just figures that you think are really powerful and can handle themselves, do it. But sometimes the math doesn't add up. Figures have weird point totals. You have 5-10 points left over. I recommend highly trying to fit these in. And when you do, if you have a limited pool or all of them, find the ones that specifically help your team, or can cause a devastation alpha strike on somebody.
So don't base my team around these, says the guy who based his WKO team around Colin's.
I mean just playing casually with the guys at the shop. I'm not talking meta builds, Mr. Brotherhood of Metaclicks over there. Anyways.
I don't know. It worked pretty well, honestly. We had a really solid tent pole, calling in really big call-ins, and made for some serious maximum carnage, and not necessarily alpha strike in most cases, but it definitely tilted the sway of the game, and the opponents couldn't kill them back, so they got 5 points.
Yep. That's something to consider too. Like whenever you call in a figure, make sure it can take a hit. Because like I said before, they can score your 5 points off your D card, that's fine. You can probably get ahead eventually in the game. Losing 5 points isn't the end of the world, guys. These cards are not bad. Just because you're giving your opponent 5 points doesn't mean you've already lost. You can still hit them hard enough to win.
Yeah, it's not like I'm giving you, 50 some odd points per Thunderbird.
Just never let him go, will you?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Anyways, so aside...
He will be remembered, and he will be missed.
Aside from that, guys, these things are straight utility. Find a way to use them. When you do use them, make sure it's at the opportune moment. Don't just throw them out there and then watch him be destroyed and you just lost 100+ points because you were reckless with it. Make it smart. Make it count. Make it so that when he's out there on his own, you can get away. You can TK him off the board. Make him go away. If there's a way to get this figure off of your board before the end of your next turn, and you don't need it, try. Anything you can do, just make it go away. It's worth trying if you can. If not, make sure you can take a good hit. Honestly, bringing in a 3-click piece may not be your best option, but if it has like shape change, reflexes, and super senses, and can maybe get away from an attack, cool. Maybe it's worth bringing in. It's always worth trying, right?
Sure.
Well, aside from that, there's one other thing I have to cover, but I'm not going to do this whole video. I'm going to save it for a different video. But I want to talk about the resource with these. The round table and the Justice League teleporter. Those are pretty easy to get. You can get a teleporter just about anywhere. Most stores may or may not have the Avengers round table just lying in the back of their shop from the events. Who knows? Probably buy them on eBay for $5 or less for that one. But the teleporter, I think most stores carry to buy around $20, and if those you get the special exclusive 4 in there. I think it's Red Tornado, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter. So those are definitely worth picking up because we're going to get more copies of those in the future, I'm sure. Had some good copies in both, Superman and Wonder Woman, World's Finest, and Trinity War. So all around, guys, I hope this video helps you understand a little bit more about ID cards. I will be doing future videos with you guys with more in-depth reviews on some of the cards, some of the characters. There is a really, really good article on HC Realms that a gentleman had created that goes over just about every single column imaginable for all these cards up to a certain point.
I apparently need to read more.
Yeah, it's a really good article. So if you can find that, I believe it's just in the Heroclix Tactics and Team Building section.
Tell you what, we'll find it for you, and we'll put it in the description below.
There you go. That way you guys can find it. But thank you guys again. This has been Professor ErX's Academy for Higher Learning. And I want to say one special announcement before I end the video. I'm going to be doing a Intro to Heroclix series. I'm going to be covering the entire PAC one power at a time.
For those of us like myself who don't know how to play the game and just make up the rules as they go.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it literally one power at a time. We're talking short videos, 5 to 10 minutes tops. I'm going to go through them front to back so you guys all know how they work. So hopefully in the future, new players, you can direct them to these videos and they'll say, oh, that's how Flurry works, or oh, that's how Wit works. Prob works that way? I had no idea. Now they'll know.
Or if you are new, you'll have our wonderful Professor ErX teaching you all the ins and outs of the game so you can be just as good, if not better, than the long-time standing players.
Well, thank you again, guys. Please comment and subscribe on our videos. Give us any feedback on things you want to learn about, and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible. Okay, and remember,
strike first
and strike hard.